2020. This Leadership Summit 2020 is jointly organized by IEEE Indonesia Section, Industry Relations, Government Relations, Young Professional, and the Singapore Office. My name is Leo. I'm the Director of IEEE Singapore Operations, and today I'm honored to be one of the two moderators for this prestigious webinar. The other moderator is my good friend, Dr. Ford. He's also the IEEE Indonesia Computer Society Chair. Today, we are in the second episode of the Leadership Summit 2020. The first episode was successfully held on the 2nd of May. Before we begin the webinar proper, there are some ground rules and protocols that we need to follow to ensure a smooth operation and a smooth webinar. Number one, only panelists are allowed to talk and give presentation material or the video. This method aims to minimize any noise distraction throughout the discussion. The committee will automatically set audience's microphone in muted mode throughout the whole webinar. And during the Q&A session, participants may raise questions to the panelists by sending message via the Q&A feature on the Zoom using a format like your name, your institution, and which is the panelist name, and then followed by the question. And on a discussion and or question and answer session, the moderators will choose and read out the questions, and which later will be answered by the directed panelist using the Q&A feature or the live questioning. Last but not least, to ensure the conveniences and the safety throughout the session, please do not share or distribute the link to other parties. And now, we will start this webinar by singing Indonesia National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. The Indonesia National Anthem. Thank you, everybody. Terima kasih. Majulah Indonesia. For the opening session, we have three distinguished speakers. First of all, we have Professor Akinori-san. Professor Akinori is our Region 10 Director, and he will do the opening speech for us via his pre-recorded video. And his speech will help us set the tone for this webinar. Professor Akinori.
the membership has remarkably increased from 332 2009 to 2,095 at the end of 2019, which is 6.3 times in 10 years. I would like to congratulate IEEE Indonesia Section members and Section leadership. As the fourth largest population country in the world, following China, India, and the US, I hope IEEE Indonesia Section will continue to grow in terms of both member. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second webinar of Leadership Summit, Engineering in COVID-19, with the presence of Your Excellency, Mr. Johnny Gerald Plate, Minister of Communication and Information, Republic of Indonesia. It is my great pleasure that IEEE Indonesia Section and IEEE Singapore Office organized this second webinar in this difficult situation. As I told in my welcome remark in the first webinar, IEEE Indonesia Section is very active recently, probably partly because the membership has remarkably increased from 332 at the end of 2009 to 2,095 at the end of 2019, which is 6.3 times in 10 years. I would like to congratulate IEEE Indonesia Section members and Section leadership. As the fourth largest population country in the world, following China, India, and the US, I hope IEEE Indonesia Section will continue to grow in terms of both membership and vibrancy. I would also like to thank our IEEE Singapore Office, the host of this webinar series. IEEE Singapore Office has been helping our members and volunteers. IEEE Region Executive Committee is greatly supported by IEEE Singapore Office. I am glad that together with Indonesia Section, Singapore Office is continuing to organize this webinar series. The theme of this webinar is preparing and shaping new societies. In this new situation with COVID-19, we really have to prepare and shape new societies. Unfortunately, I have another meeting now, and it is a pity that I cannot listen to the interesting talks in the program, but I hope you have fruitful discussions. I fully anticipate that this webinar will promote and carry forward the IEEE's mission, advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. I thank again the organizing committee members for their hard work in preparing this webinar, and I do hope all participants will enjoy and profit from this webinar. We thank you very much for your promised attendance and contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Akinori Sensei. Now we move to the next speakers. I'd like to introduce Ibu Agnes Irwanti. Ibu Agnes Irwanti is the chair for this webinar from the first and the second one today. She will share about the activity report of this Leadership Summit series. Ibu Agnes, the time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Ford. Allow me to share the presentation file. Well, the Honorable Keynote Speaker, Dr. Ismael, Director General of Resources Management and Equipment of Post and Informatics, Ministry of Communications and Informatics of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Speaker, Professor Kukjians, IEEE MGA Vice President, Professor Akinori, IEEE Region 10 Director, and Professor Wisnu Chatmiko, IEEE Indonesia Section Chair, IEEE Indonesia Section Advisory Board, all of the participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from Jakarta. It is my pleasure to welcome you all in IEEE Leadership Summit Engineering in COVID-19, a webinar series. On this good opportunity, please allow me to give report of the Leadership Summit 2020 activities. As Pak Ford and Leo mentioned, this IEEE Leadership Summit Engineering in COVID-19 is a webinar series consisted of 3 webinars that will be held every once in a month. The first webinar was carrying the theme of when the most important technology is leadership. When the most important technology is teamwork, and was held in May 2nd, 2020. And today we held the second webinar with the theme of preparing and shaping the new society. And the next topics is innovations and challenge in the new world environment will be delivered on July. Well, on the previous webinar, we have 270 attendees from its countries, which are Indonesia, Singapore, China, Japan, India, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Australia, and got the honor to have Professor Bambang Brojonegoro, the Minister of Research and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia, as our keynote speakers. The moderator in today's webinar, we have Mr. Leo Hua Chiang, the Director of IEEE Singapore Office, and Dr. Ford, the IEEE Indonesia Section Computer Society Chair. And this webinar will be already open by Professor Akinori Nishihara, the IEEE Region 10 Director, via video taping. And our keynote speaker today is the Honorable Dr. Ismael from the Ministry of Communications and Informatics of the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you very much, Bapak, for accepting our invitations. And we have 4 remarkable experts as our panelists. There is Professor Kuk Chin Chun, IEEE MGA Vice President, Dr. Yanuar Nugroho, Visiting Senior Fellow, IEEAS Singapore, and Indonesia former Deputy Chief of Staff to the President of the Republic of Indonesia, and also Mr. Viswa Karma, the CEO of All Things Connected, and Mr. Nifas Raffi Chandran, the past IEEE Region 10 Young Professional Coordinator. I believe all combined materials will resulting in great contribution to prepare and shape the new society after COVID-19 pandemic. Well, for today we have 428 registered participants from 13 countries. As mentioned before, we have 8 countries participated in this first webinar, and in the second webinar, divergence of the countries is escalated into 13 countries. I'd like to welcome all participants from Indonesia, Singapore, India, Bangladesh, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Morocco, Pakistan, USA, UK, Australia, Nigeria, and Russia. And by the end of this big webinar, Mr. Arnold Jiwatampu, as the CEO of Tiara Titian Telekomunikasi Enterprise, and also advisory board of IEEE Indonesia Section, will share the resume and conclusions for the second webinar. Well, I would like to close this report with a quote from James Kip Vince. The engineer has been and is a maker of history. I hope all of us can have a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Agnes. My name is Leo back here again. Originally, our guest of honor is the Minister of Communication and Information Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Johnny Plate. However, due to his busy schedule, he's not able to join us. Nonetheless, we have Dr. Ismael with us. Dr. Ismail, he is the Director General of Resources Management and Equipment of Post and Informatics from the Ministry of Communication and Informatics Republic of Indonesia. Dr. Ismail, please.
Thank you, Mr. Leo, for your kind introduction. First of all, I would like to once again apologize from Minister that he cannot join this very interesting webinar, and allow me to replace him and give some short maybe views about how is Indonesia preparing and shaping new society through technology. This topic is very interesting, and I would like to first to congratulate to IEEE Indonesia section for organizing this webinar and giving the opportunity for the members as well as engineer together and discuss about our current situation during the pandemic and after. I see there are some of my colleagues here join here. There's Pak Jiwa Tampu, Pak Wisnu Jatmiko, Pak Denny Setiawan, and Pak Januar. Many our colleagues here join, and very interesting to gather here today. We are now experiencing an period that pandemic where we use together and share our ideas to work with conference as well as. So because of pandemic, we do conference like this, because before we just how to make the real seminar face to face, offline and something, but now everything is changed of cause of pandemic. So in this excellent occasion, I would like to share my view about how to prepare and shape a new society through this technology. Please you see in my slide that at least we have 6 new behavior now. They are growing very fast to change us in this behavior. First, people now accustomed with work from home, teleworking, and his method will be considerable alternative in this new normal era. Second, people will become increasingly accustomed to shop online also. Maybe because of this COVID, there are so many malls, shopping malls now is closed. So many people now change their behavior to shop, to pay, and to deliver with new system, with online system. And the next one is telemedicine. Telemedicine is growing very fast now in Indonesia because the peoples now is a little bit worried to come to the hospitals because of the disease or pandemic something. So many people using the telemedicine's platform and application growing is very fast now. People's trying to solve their health problem with using this telemedicine equipment or systems. And the fourth is distance learning. Yeah. As you know, not only office but education or schools, university now has become closed, and our young generation, our students now directly become as a distance learning process. They doing very fast, and our teachers, our professors, our all the society in this education now going educate people with the new system and trying to move on and have a new system and have a new approach how to use that. And then the next is a video meeting. So we do like that, and then many people's now in make a meetings, make a seminar, whatever, using a video meeting. We can see and we can detect the indication of the increasing of this video uh, by the telecommunication operators, that they are increasing more than 30% now in Indonesia of the data transfer of because of this video meeting equipment or video meeting system. And then the next is maybe accelerate industry 4.0, because of even in factory now become closed, so they find out the new system and new ways how to accelerate the industry 4.0 using the sum of robotic system and something IoT system introduced in the factory in some of our factories now in Indonesia. So at least there are 6 background behaviors or push behavior that creates a new normal, create a new condition. And then please next slide please. You see that there's the acceleration of the digitalization process now is coming here. As you know that the digitalization process is partly divided by three section or 3 activities. First one is digitization, how to implement conversing the digital format of all data from the offline or from the manual data from the papers coming to the digital format. This is already being done many years ago. So I think many peoples now can get the format of their data in digitization, and I mean in the digital format. So the next activity is how to digitalization. Use ICT in business process to benefit from digitized content. There are some implementation using in this situation like online distant learning, and e-office. There are so many applications using digitalization process to speed up and to increase their optimization of the institution. Some how to get benefit from the digitalization process, like increasing the revenue, or they can decrease the cost of the processing. Because of this pandemic, in this situation in digitalization, there are some acceleration now in Indonesia. I think many countries do like that also. We increase our condition from the blue dots to become. I mean, from the black dots to the red dots. Actually, we grow eventually or normally like this quite several years to becoming as a blue dot. But now we are pushing by of this pandemic, and then we start of our accelerate the digitalization transformation, digital transformation in Indonesia to become very fast now. And then the next step, how we coming to make the digital transformation the really one, when we introduce or implement the some like artificial intelligence and big data of analytic and some key in technology issues that very important to implement when we speed up our digital transformation. So thanks God about the COVID-19. Yeah, we have some problem about that, but COVID-19 bring us very fast to transform our digital transformation now, especially in Indonesia. I think many countries coming and facing this situation. Next slide, please. Okay, government recently has establishing the economic recovery program that focus on healthcare budget to end the pandemic, social security for society, as well as budget to help the business sectors that affected by COVID-19. To make this program effective, technology is taking the important role to restart the economy. As we understand in economy that the output produced by an enterprise is function of capital, labor, and total productivity factor. The total productive factor is consists of technology, human capital, organization, innovation, and anything else that could improve the efficiency of production. Technology and human capital will be the key points to recover Indonesia economy. While we only get more if we do more with capital and labor, technology allows us to do more with less. Technology itself is also a vertical progress, as stated by Peter Thiel. There were two kinds of progress. One is vertical progress that consists of technology invention and creating the new things. And the other one is horizontal progress that consists of globalization, scaling, or copying existing things. To make it simple, the example of vertical progress is 5G patents. It consists of a novel creation that has not been discovered before, while the example of horizontal progress is producing smartphone. We use the information and the technology that have been discovered to replicate the products. Actually, in Indonesia condition, what matters is any progress. Whatever, whether it is horizontal or vertical, it is better than no progress at all. I think there are this situation now. So that's why technology become is a very important things that the cover of our economic because of this pandemic condition. Next slide, please. So, so what is the strategic issues in shaping and preparing this new society? To develop and use the technology to boost the economic recovery process, Indonesia is still facing challenges yet behind the challenge there lies opportunities according to Kemenristek, yeah, as Pak Bambang Brojo maybe already mentioned before, that the opportunity is if we could utilize the technology well, we are sure that we can recover faster because all of the inputs from capital to labor are processed efficiently. The challenge that Indonesia faces now is to increase capability of the technology and innovation adaptation. It's not easy because this is because of the this factor is cause of the habit and behavior before or how to speed up change our culture, introduce technology not necessarily because of the technology itself, but the culture is very important one that need to be proposed and speed by the top level management. Surely there are a lot of things need to be done to increase the capability. Another challenge is how to increase the effectiveness, the utilization of science and technology budget. In 2019, the total of R&D budget is 0.25% of Indonesia GDP. As we take a deeper look, most of the budget comes from the government budget of around 84% of total R&D budget, while manufacturing industry only contributes 8%. Reflecting the best practice, R&D budget is needed at least 2% of total GDP. So in Indonesia is quite far. So because of this pandemic, there are some strategic level meetings or discussion now to increase this R&D budget, because we understand that technology is take very important things to speed up and to overcome the problems. I would like to highlight about what we need to do for each stakeholder in the next slide. So at least I can buy in triple helix. Maybe some people now talking about pentahelix. What is need to be done in this situation? Like government. The problem now, government need to prepare some laws, critical laws, infrastructure to accommodate innovation. As you know, that some of technology invention, they push the new business model in every sectors, like in transportation. When coming of Gojek or Grab in Indonesia, there are some issues in laws and government decree that that it is not fit with our laws. because of this new business model. So I think this is not only in transportation sector, but all sectors like banking sectors, like in telecommunication sector, everything, and in health sector, there needs reviews of the superstructure of laws. And the second one, government need to stimulate the ecosystem with investment and pilot project. As I mentioned before, that technology take a very important thing and important role. Now government speed up to take some pilot project like IoT. We have proposed some IoT, Internet of Things technology in some sectors, especially in state-owned government, state-owned enterprises, and then also support some new technology implement in 5G to start the new ecosystem in 5G. But this is still under pilot project or I mean in very early in beginning. And then the next one is enable the ecosystem of innovation with bringing the triple-headed correlation. We do understand that government cannot overcome all alone. We need to hand by hand with others, industry and university, and then media, also society, to recover these problems together. The next one is industry. As we know that strategic partnership with university to maintain the sustainable of enterprises and R&D is very important. How to hand in hand and implement technology with the R&D and innovation to implement in this industry. And next is universities, of course, including IEEE organization, how to prepare the digital talent to be captured by industry with adjustment the high education and competence. As you know, digital talent is one of a very key important things that to overcome the problem, to solve many things, talent is very key factors. So how to our society like IEEE now become maybe has some contribution to speed up and to increase our digital talent to support the new competence and new technology competence that needed by the industry. And the last one is providing industry-centric research. That research is very important to being localized. Many things technology need to be localized and customizing to become implementing before implementing in every country. So I think there are very important one how to make the all the technology need to be customizing and use the real habit and real behavior of the every countries. I think that's all my small views maybe about this situation of new era, or we call is new normal. I'm very happy to give if you have any inputs or maybe some comments about my presentation. Thank you very much, Pak Leo and Bu Agnes, about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ismael, Mr. Director General. So I'm just summary from your talk. You mentioned about 6 areas that provide some of important now: teleworking, shop online, telemedicine, distance learning, video making, and acceleration to Industry 4.0, and some of information about digitalization, and of course about some we call it digital transformation. A very inspiring talk, Bapak, and we're moving to the next sessions. We would like to thank you for our 3 distinguished speakers today that already provide the important key points on our summits. The topic for today discuss about preparing and shaping the new society. Now, what do we mean by this? I'm sure that each of us in this webinar is eager to find out. Allow me to introduce to you our prestigious speakers. First, I would like to introduce Professor Kuk-Jin. Professor Kuk-Jin is a professor from the well-known Seoul National University, Korea. Professor Kuk-Jin will talk about IEEE approach and strategies in managing the global pandemic, new thinking, new way, and new change. And the next, we will have Dr. Yanuar. Dr. Yanuar is the visiting senior fellow SCS Yusuf Ishak, and also the Indonesian former Deputy Chief of Staff to the President Republic of Indonesia from 2015 to 2019. Dr. Yanuar will share about the revisiting Indonesia development after the pandemic, vision, challenges, and opportunities. And after that, we have Mr. Nivas with us. Nivas is the past IEEE Young Professional Coordinators of Region 10. He will discuss about how young professionals and startups can leverage this pandemic. Last but not the least, we have CK. CK is the CEO of All Things Connected and the founder of IoTSG. CK also is a senior business strategy and digital transformation leader. Ladies and gentlemen, he will share about this one, future work and collaborative work of environments, opportunities, and challenges.
Okay, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we will have our first speaker, Professor Kuk Ching. Professor Kuk Ching, over to you, please. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll share my slides from my side. All right. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank this organizing committee and Indonesia section and Singapore office and Region 10, for this very successful webinar. And I also appreciate giving me this opportunity. Well, the keynote speaker addressed these points in his talk, so I'll just briefly talk about this. In this global the virus situation, we are experiencing extraordinary time in world history, and everyone on the planet faces some measure of risk. And most countries, I guess, were not affected by SARS or MERS so far, and so some of them were not well prepared. So we have a
hello, Kuk Ching.
Yes?
Sorry, we're not able to see your slides yet, Kuk Ching. Sorry.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Kuk Ching, this is Leo here. We are not able to see your slide.
Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to
do the share
push
screen
the button. Yeah, share.
Yes,
now.
okay, we got it now. We got it now, Professor Kuk Ching.
Okay, thank you.
We got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So again, oh, can I move this? Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, yes, Prof. Kuk Ching, this is Leo here. We can see your slide now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the in this situation, the restriction, we have a restrictions on travel, gathering, and meetings. And for example, IEEE offices temporarily closed from March, in the middle of March, and most of the events are canceled, and so people are working from home. And online lectures and exams and the pre-recorded video for the experiments are used in the university or schools, and in a home for multiple kids, we need multiple computers for the online education. And remote medical treatments are quite necessary, and the delivery service is very useful, and sometimes with a autonomous vehicle. And the QR code checking on entry is quite plausible technology these days. And then actually it's forced by law in Korea now, and steep increase in connectivity and internet traffic, and increase in web space, but physical space is not really necessary these days. And people talk about green recovery. So for the zero emission cars or infrastructure, well, it is needed. And then people need the online education and the new tools. And then nowadays, a person can offer a service independently of the geographical location. And information dissemination is very important for the timing, and the privacy concerns come after safety perception, like sharing health data or tracing people's trajectory. And in this chart, all the red marked phrase are related to the IEEE technology. And actually, many societies are trying to get a good technology established in these areas. And IEEE, is a worldwide organization with over 420,000 members in 160 countries. And all those countries have a different infrastructure. And IEEE started in USA from the year 1884 as an AIEE, and started as IEEE in 1963, and now holds 10 regions and 5 organizational units. And IEEE has provided many resources and tools to support our membership with virtual engagement. So here are the some examples. From MGA side, e-membership is available. So the members, receives only the material only in online, so no paper is required. And then Collaboratech, like an SNS tool, is provided for networking. And then IEEE.TV has been available for many years, and it's becoming to change its format like a YouTube. And from the tab side, virtual conferences, available these days. And then from the publication side, online publications has been available. And for the education, the so-called IEEE Learning Network (ILN) is available with over 400 different topics. And for the high school, middle school students, try engineering videos available. And then for these special circumstances, ILN courses for $10 each with a big selection. And it's covering from technology to the standard to even the English writing. And then the Standard Association provides a no-cost public access to important IEEE standards because those people respond to the global COVID-19 public health emergency. And this chart shows the basically membership, the membership of the benefits from the IEEE. So there are quite many different types of benefits, and most of these benefits are involved with some kind of technology. So IEEE will continue to to provide the same the quality of the benefits in the future. And IEEE has some department called MCE, a meeting, conferences and the events, and then that department basically established the Event Emergency Response Team, EELT, and then it is actively monitoring the global landscape as this situation unfolds. And in partnership with IEEE's legal and risk management and the corporate communications staff, the EELT is developing a set of scenario-driven action plans and communications to address concerns and mitigate potential risks. So most of the IEEE events, consult with the EELT, and then the EELT, has a very good advice, either to pursue or cancel the event. So in this August, Sections Congress was planned in Ottawa, Canada, and there used to be over 1,000 people, but it's canceled now for the August, And then for that one, the IEEE has waited for the cancellation until the city announces or declares the forced measure. So that's very important to avoid the penalty, in hotels and local expenses. And so, with the collaboration with the conference committee, that MCE published the IEEE virtual events guide. So you can take a look at those guides, for this kind of webinar or for all the events. And here are the sum of a few tips. Like virtual events work best with a smaller number of hours per day spread over more days. And then for the exhibitors or sponsors, they can do the company presentation in virtual, and then do the television magazine style advertisement, or they can even have a virtual booth. And for the networking in the event, the audio or Q&A or chat feature or discussion boards or virtual breakout rooms, or even the offline feedback, can be used. And usually that the event time is a 1 to 3 p.m. GMT, which is I think 8 p.m. or to 10 p.m. in Jakarta. So that period of time is most useful and available for most of the attendees. And I'd like to introduce a program from IEEE called MOVE. IEEE USA program, MOVE is an IEEE USA program in the humanitarian activity for a few years. And from 2019, this team is collaborating with the Region 10 and Region 9, and to be ready for the islands. And you can see the big trough in the photo. That this is a 40 feet trough, so it's a pretty big. But USA has a very good infrastructure to see it. So this truck, can go to the disaster area, and then help people there, or collaborate with the American Red Cross to provide the extra power or the water, and the communication. So this truck is driven by IEEE volunteers and go to the disaster area and spend there 1 or 2 weeks. And so in the bottom, you can see the solar cells on the roof, or the racks, or power racks, or the monitors. And they are basically, the ship that they can be shipped in the modular form, like the picture on the right side in the bottom, such that either power or each part of this communication or power, the help can be shipped piece by piece, as in the picture. So that's basically similar to the modular approach. So they come up with the modular move. The modular move model has the benefit of being replicated hundreds of times for deployment by hundreds of IEEE sections around the world. And originally, the design was several individual boxes that could be mixed and matched for a particular deployment, as seen in the picture in the last page. But through the customer interviews, the original many boxes approach has been modified to be a single large box with optional sub-modules inside. So the modules housed in the box are power generation or voltage conversion, power storage, and the phone or power bank charging, and the wireless networking, and the internet communications. And the survey has been completed in the Region 9 and 10 last year, and they are moving into how to realize this concept, and then to be used in this the Region 9 and 10 areas, Asia and South America. And the size of the box will be less than 1 meter. So it's in the order of tens of a centimeter size, in each side, so that it can be carried or it can be shipped quite easy. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Professor Kuching, for your sharing. Professor Kuching's talk actually is about IEEE and what is IEEE doing during this pandemic and services for new society with example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Jing. If I noted some of the talk, there are some of the 3 items that you mentioned in your talk. You mentioned about virtual events from IEEE. This is a very good initiative. And then the second one, there are some of the strategies from IEEE that also related with the keynote speaker that mentioned about this afternoon from Dr. Ismael. Once there are some of them that I wrote in here is work from home, learning from home. You mentioned about telemedicine, of course, about internet communication as well, and of course, zero emission. And the last is about MOVE. This is one of the very good initiative from IEEE because in the MOVE, it's like a car that able to support about power generators, internet communication, and voltage conversion. That's very good, inspiring talk. Now we're moving to the Dr. Yanuar. Please, Dr. Yanuar, the time is about 10 minutes from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my slide?
Sure.
Can you?
Mini photo over there.
Yes. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Yes, we can see your slide.
Thank you. Good afternoon from Yogyakarta, everyone. Yogyakarta is about 600 kilometers to the east from Jakarta. Let me start this sharing rather than presentation with a disclaimer. As I mentioned to Professor Kongjik before the event, which is I'm no longer an engineer. I have left the engineering world many times ago, becoming, I don't know what I am now at the moment. Sociologist, maybe, I don't know. But basically, I've been working in non-government organization. I work in academia back in the UK for many years, and then joined the Indonesian government for a few years as Deputy Chief of Staff at the Office of the President. So my sharing would be mix of reflection as an academic, but also from first-hand experience being a policymaker. I will, well, all of us, we know this, so I can skip this part actually, that we are all now suffering from this pandemic to the level even health workers even have to sacrifice their lives to save us. It is very daunting, it is very saddening, it is very disheartening to all of us, but we know that we all face this crisis. In Indonesia itself, this is just a very short figure as per yesterday. This is the dynamics. I don't know, and I don't want to enter the debate whether or not we are actually ready to coming into the so-called new normal, whether we are actually still in the first phase. I don't want to enter this discussion. But actually, as we learn about this crisis, the more that we do not know about this. And I think this is where we need to be a bit humble to ourselves, how, especially how we see development, how we see public policy, if we are here to serve our people. So let me start with this, development. I will try to be concise to put it only in 2 slides. This is the first slide. Underlying assumption of development is it is the insertion to the market economy which provides people more than just survival. So it inscribes people in an accumulation process, not just economically, but also environmentally, socially, politically. So if we see development only from the perspective of economy, I think we are wrong. We need to see from the perspective of environment, social, culture, political, which means that people progressively can improve the quality of their livelihood, I would say. For us engineers, and this is my field for many, many years back in Manchester, the UK, innovation studies, what is innovation for development then? It is innovation whose outcomes are capable of raising people capacity to better and more effectively improve their livelihoods, number one, as well as exercising their civil and political rights. This notion is important because development is actually all about addressing uncertainties. So if you forget everything about development, remember only this. What is development? Development is the effort from the state, from the government to address uncertainties that the people face. Legal uncertainty, health uncertainty, security uncertainty, education uncertainty, and so on and so forth, which in the time of pandemics like what we have at the moment, now we know how it increases. This is what we do. This is what we have now in Asia, at least. The pandemic has reset, has set back nearly all of our achievement over the past 5, 6, maybe 10 years. In Indonesia, it set back lots of development achievement that we have done. So I think it is now a right time to really rethink how we will shape rather than predict the future. Because I take this from Wall Street Journal, we are not in the same boat now, but we are in the same storm. The storm is the pandemic. We are in the same boat. Many of us, all of us basically, we have different capacities to face this storm. And the question would be, the challenge would be, how we can collaborate, that we can not just survive the storm, but we can keep excelling. So, back to the development, what are the assumptions that have changed? I will pinpoint 3 basic assumptions that have changed. 1, public is not just government and universities, especially when we talk about production of knowledge, in which Pak Ismael mentioned in the keynote speech when he shared with us about triple helix. Private is not just industry, and growth is not the only and ultimate goal in development. So when we come into approach, we need to be very, very clear about validity vis-a-vis convenience. Because 1, development policy is never value-free. It has preference. The question is, whose preference? It has priority and prioritizing. The question is, whose priority? How do we prioritize? Development policy has to be embedded in the social processes that are penetrated by an array of social, political, economic, cultural, environmental processes. I tried to put this in my paper published a few years ago on the non-neutrality of science, technology, and innovation in development. And also the complexity of social structures of society needs to be reflected when we talk about helix, be it triple helix, pentahelix, quadruple helix, which already now as a knowledge has progressed, has transformed. On public policy, let me just remind you that public policy is government choice to do or not to do about something. Do not forget the second part. It is not just what the government does, but also what the government doesn't want to do. Okay? Now, how the future unfolds. This is basically this from 1918 Spanish flu. Back in 1918, which becomes the fashion at the time. I don't know what kind of new fashion we will have. But basically, this is our national priorities in Indonesia, 2019-2024, before COVID-19. This is national priorities. Infrastructure development, focusing on connectivity, human capital development, focusing on talent management and vocational training, economic transformation, focusing on investment for growth and job creation, bureaucracy reform on the modern state apparatus institutions, and simplification of regulations. But what Indonesia after COVID-19 will look like? We need to recalibrate national priorities. One, for infrastructure, we have to make sure that private sector needs to be involved better. Second, it has to be integrated with socio-economic and ecological aspects. We have to ensure that infrastructure development has a direct socio-economic impact on livelihoods of citizens. Because this pandemic has taught us that sometimes, if not oftentimes, the infrastructure development is disembedded from the daily life of people. Second, what about human capital? Now we know that strengthening health system and capacity is a must. This pandemic is a wake-up call that health system in Indonesia is very, very weak, very, very low. We don't have to lament about this condition for too long, but it is the time now to strengthen health system, health capacity. We have also to improve access to quality and delivery of education. We talk about online learning. Well, the digital divide is real.
Excuse me, Dr. Yanuar,
Yes,
you have
I
2 more
only
minutes.
have.
Sorry.
Okay. 68 million of Indonesian students didn't have adequate education, and this is getting worsened by this pandemic. Also, economic transformation. It is not just about investment, but investment for sustainable growth, jobs, and socioeconomic environmental value. We need to reform our social protection. In terms of bureaucracy reform, merit system, output-oriented, agility, and responsiveness. We have to ensure that we have e-government in place for public services, as Pak Ismael mentioned. Lastly, simplification of regulations. There is no way we can live in non-transparent or closed process of creating regulations. So I think with the three part, why we need to do this, because of these three things. Why we need to build our state capacity. One, because absence of coordination and siloed approach that has been taught by this pandemic. Second, lack of discipline and in implementation. And third, political bargain in absence of the data. These three have to go after the pandemic. The future is complex. Basically, the government alone is not enough. Let us not be delusional. It is impossible to leave all matters just to the government. We need to work together, the government and non-government, private sector, media, academia, and so on and so forth. So my final slide, this is the key takeaways. This pandemic is a wake-up call to reform the state capacity and to re-envisage the future of Indonesia. We know that technology plays a significant role, but it is not the only one. It needs clear architecture and objectives. We have to make sure it serves the people and societal values, not the other way around. Third, step-by-step approach is necessary to reform bureaucracy and help them re-envisage the future. We know because for bureaucracy to work, we need regulatory framework, institutional framework, and accountability framework. My latest paper published yesterday, literally in ISIS, fully fledged, trying to explain this in a more detail. I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yanuar. Some of the summary from your talk that I wrote in here, the issue about Indonesia is 3 areas: economy, the development, and of course about public policy. And the major point is about how do we shaping the futures, and of course building the state capacity. I would like to inform to all of the participants to complete with the evaluation form. Kindly please look at it in the chat. The e-certificate only issued by those that already complete with the evaluation form. That's compulsory to get the certificate.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, may I now present to you Mr. Nivas Ravi, Nivas, we are slightly behind schedule. If you can keep your presentation to within 10 minutes. Thank you. Nivas, please.
Sure. Hey, thank you so much, Leo, and thank you so much, IEEE Indonesia section and IEEE Region 10. Was such a pleasure hearing to Mr. Kukjin Chun again. I used to work in his team a year ago. So I'm going to be very specifically talking about two aspects. I used to be the Young Professionals Coordinator for Region 10, and I was also the Young Professionals Vice Chair for IEEE Global. So we're just going to be talking about how it has impacted young professionals as well as startups. So let's not even call it the challenge, right? I'm just going to say, what's the scenario that the pandemic has opened up for us? There's a lot of hiring freeze in organizations and companies where there aren't enough new job opportunities. So there is a definite slowdown of the economy in multiple countries. I've just taken, so the way I've kind of structured my presentation is I've just taken news articles from different regions of the world and just highlighting some of them that what we're speaking about. So a lot of organizations have done a hiring freeze, including ours, and they're trying to recalculate how to take care of their spends, how to make sure they are staying within business, right? They don't want to shut down business. There are a lot of businesses shutting down. There is also another situation of people being laid off or let go of in a company. And there's also a pay cut where the salary is being reduced from 100% to 70%, 60%, or even letting go of people, right? So this is also a very difficult situation for if you are a young professional who's looking for a job opportunity or who just graduated, then there's a slight difficulty over there as well. And all the companies, right, it's no more that people want to have very extravagant office spaces. They have opened up remote working for almost everyone. And in fact, there is a lot of the big companies like Facebook, Box, a lot of the companies have opened up saying, hey, you know what, we're going to either permanently make it work from home or at least working from home till end of 2020 and open it only at 2021. Right? So a lot of these things which keep pushing questions in the minds of young professionals, because when you're really graduated or when you're just looking for a new change in job opportunity, all of this news is a very worrying thing. Agreed, right? But let's look at it this way. There obviously, wherever there is a challenge, rises opportunities. So just wanted to point out something, right? Challenges obviously bring opportunities. Whatever rules were set in terms of these potential areas, right? Like let's say workplace or public health or education, or be it logistics, urban mobility, or even a lot of other areas, there is humongous amount of disruption possible where like how will people even enter the workforce? Workplace. Are they going to have a daily scanner every day? What types of the regular checks are needed for this? Or how will people commute? Is taking a back ride on a Gojek bike in Indonesia or Jakarta, is it safe anymore? Or those sort of questions are arising, right? Where is it safe to be in such close contact for this year or even for the future, right? There are so many problems that are arising. But at the same time, this actually allows, especially people like us, innovationists, to kind of think of new ideas, right? And I don't know how many of you have heard of this, but in the US, there was this year of 2008, 7 to 8, which was called the Great Recession, right? The Wall Street crashed and a lot of people lost job opportunities. They were extreme, like not as probably as severe as this because this is a global outbreak, whereas that happened in the US. But if you see a very interesting trend, the type of companies that were founded in 2008/2009, right after the Great Recession, are some of the companies that have actually stood very, very tall. Airbnbs of the world, Uber, WhatsApp, Twilio, Square, Slack, SendGrid, Pinterest. So many of the very interesting companies have been started right after because of the number of opportunities the challenges create, right? I think as young professionals, we should really think of it as an opportunity rather than actually a challenge. Okay. The most beautiful thing, right? Irrespective of which country you are from. I am from India. A lot of you, I notice, are from Indonesia or from any region, any country in Asia Pacific, right? The world just became more open for all of us, folks. We are totally adaptable to the new technologies that is out there, right? So we right now, it's in fact going to disrupt the education space. Will universities again open up? Will things happen? Is a question, right? People are thinking of online education, different sorts of modules. So Facebook, in fact, plans to start hiring new remote workers, fully remote, expand presence in more cities, right? And in fact, now you can start applying for job opportunities in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in UK, or anywhere in the world, right? It's not no more specific to, hey, I need to stay in Jakarta, or I need to stay in Yogyakarta, or in, say, any of the cities, right? So it's going to become more and more open, and there are going to be opportunities for us, increase in from a financial perspective to an opportunity perspective. I think this is going to be super critical for all of our young professionals. I think a couple of the speakers also addressed this before, right? There's this humongous shift to online. Think about it. Airbnb is an accommodation business, right? Like it's a hotel or a logistics, like a hospitality business. They are launching new online experiences in collaboration with the Olympics, Broadway, and more, right? Everyone is trying to think online. And if you've been following the news, the software that we've been using, Zoom, has had, like, what they had predicted that they will achieve by end of year, as they've already achieved it, right? The boost expected to boost revenue by 200%. So there's like enough number of people, like a lot of the banks in India, because I'm from India, I can speak about this, where a lot of the banks in India, which did not have any mode of online communication with the customers, now are setting up a lot of online channels. They're setting up different entities where they're engaging with a different set of people. But all of this is great, right? There are enough opportunities and everything. But how do we, as young professionals, be prepared for this, right? We don't know when it's going to end, right? Everyone has, like, if someone's able to predict this, I think they're the biggest astrologer in the world, right? But I think what we need to be is, we need to be prepared whenever the right situation is going to open up for us. We just have to be prepared for it. First important thing, right? This is a great opportunity for you to just sharpen your skills, whatever it could be. If you're a programmer, if you're an engineer, if you're a, say, let's say, if you're a research person, be it anything, right? What is it that I can do more in this situation? If you like, for example, earlier I used to, like, for my work, I used to travel a lot for meetings, right? So that time is extremely saved right now. So I'm trying to use that time to sharpen my other skills so that I'm able to improve from a young professional, I mean, like, from a career standpoint. So even if it becomes, like, for example, there's a news over here which says China grads sharpen skills as bigger paychecks prove hard to get, right? The paychecks are going to be slightly difficult, but if you have the right skill sets, people are going to look for opportunities and people are going to look for talented people, right? So I would say, make sure you sharpen your skills. The second most important thing, I think this the previous speakers also covered a lot on this. There is a good number of trends that are positively impacted and a good number of trends that are in negatively impacted industry verticals, right? If you want, you can just take a screenshot of this slide. This is from the Forbes, a lot of the research that I had put together. Obviously, healthcare, education technology, fitness, e-commerce, logistics, collaboration software, and essential businesses are positively impacted, and they are seeing an uptick, right? They're seeing a growth, they're seeing a higher revenue margins. Whereas, obviously, in terms of negatively impacted, it is the leisure and recreation, travel, luxury, clothing, automotive dealership, car rentals, and sorry, I have repeated automotive over here by mistake. But you also need to understand which are the trends that are on the negative impact and what are the verticals that are on the positive impact, and try pivoting either your startup, or if you are a young professional, look out for opportunities in some of these sectors which are booming today, because they will obviously be very important in the next generation as well. I think we as young professionals are great at this, where we have been so used to using all the tools that are available today, but the number of tools, we have to make sure we are upskilled to learning all the good collaboration tools out there. This is just a visual representation. Do not follow these tools, Zoom or Microsoft Teams, or understand how it works with your company or with your engineering, your university, or be it anywhere, right? You need to start learning your collaboration tools. and make sure you can improve your productivity, right? The most important thing over here is because you're working from home, there is literally zero energy that you can plug from outside. So you have to, it's going to be my last slide before Leo points it out. So you have to adapt to remote work. Remote work is going to be a fairly integral part, right? Everyone's going to be, prepared for this. So a couple of quick things: practice good meeting etiquette, experiment with what makes you most productive, prioritize clear communication, over communicate as much as you can, right? Though you might have completed the work, or it could be that what work you're doing, no one knows it today because they're not looking at you in the office or in the university or in wherever you are, right? So make sure you over communicate as much as you can. Very important, create boundaries between work and life. This is not going to be a sprint, it's going to be a marathon, right? If you think I need to end work at 6, end work at 6, take the evening off, right? And in fact, even if you're going to announce that you're going to not be working for a day, don't tell them that you're sick, right? Announce saying, hey, I want to take a day off, I'm willing to take a day off, right? So make sure you are able to kind of communicate that to them. And schedule time for socializing, have enough fun calls, or volunteer, or do a lot of these things. Make sure you connect with your teammates as well, and do a lot of things. And also, last but not least, focus on your health. Again, it's a marathon. Mental health is super important today because we're not spending enough time socializing. That's what gives us a lot of energy. So I just want to leave with this one word, folks. This generation, I know it's not the greatest of times, but I think we have the opportunity to either disrupt or be disrupted. I'm available on LinkedIn as Navas Ravichandran. Thank you so much, Leo and IEEE Region 10 for this opportunity. I just hope I was able to add value to the attendees here.
Thank you. Thank you, Nivas, for sharing with us the opportunities available in this current pandemic situation. And you correctly pointed out opportunity and crisis, they're actually two sides of the same coin. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, we have CK. CK is the CEO of All Things Connected. CK, time is yours.
Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Leo. And hello, everyone, whoever you're joining from. I see there are a lot of people joining from different part of the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is CK, and most of the content has already been covered by the wonderful content from the previous speaker. So my work becomes a little easier. But at the same time, the topic which I'm going to talk about, which is the collaborative work environment and the future of the work, which is a pretty broad topic, hard to cover it within 10 minutes. But allow me to give a quick introduction and my view as a technology guy. This is a quick introduction. So like most of you, I'm also engineer by education, electrical engineering, during my bachelor's. I moved to Singapore in 2003 to do my master's in robotics. And since then, I've been working with academia as well as industry, and until recently started a company called All Things Connected. So we'll talk about it later. But I personally like to spend quite a time with institutions, as you see here, because I believe that what I study in my bachelor degree, 2002, a lot of things going to change. So I do work with the professors, I do work with academia to see what industry insight we can bring on board to them to help prepare them for the future. The future of work may not be the same what we study back in 20 years back, but a lot more. Right? And as just before my presentation, Nivas was also speaking about quite a number of things, and the previous speaker, collaborative work environment. Let me put some statistics for you first, just to kind of feel. These are surveys done by our company. Just I was reading about a couple of statistics. So as you see, 75% of the employer rate teamwork and collaboration as very important, because companies are not about individuals. Companies are about teams, right? They have to work together. But at the same time, what happens when they are reviewed for their performance as an individual, they are not evaluated against the team, against the communication, which is interesting. 80% of the businesses use social collaborations, right? So the previous 10 years back, or even like 5 years back, a lot of companies are very silo, right? But now companies are getting open to integrate and work together on platform like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, right? So a lot of engagement are happening on those platforms as well. 97%, nothing surprising, believe the lack of alignment within the team can impact the outcome of the project, right? Because project, again, as a by definition itself, is about orchestrating the team, orchestrating individuals from different skills, different domains, could be internal to the organization, could be external to the organization, right? It's not about me who is driving the project, it's about the team who is driving the projects, right? And also, still, quite a number of the employee believe that they're not collaborating enough, right? So they're not performing at the best of the team. And going forward, most of you young professionals, people like Nivas and the team, they do want to work in a collaborative workspaces. So, and also the thing is, when people talk, as also Nivas was mentioning, that we do need to socialize. We can't just work behind the screen and talk to the virtual meetings and all those kind of things. We do need to talk to the people, and that will surprisingly improve the productivity and efficiency, right? And a couple of more numbers, while 75% people say that it is very important, but very few do that, right? And so I'll skip few things, but basically the idea is collaboration is the key, whether it's virtual, whether in person. No organization works on individuals. It's all about team, right? But however, be COVID, without COVID, the future of the work is going to transform. Yes, COVID has accelerated some of those things by hosting this virtual meeting, virtual conferences. Having said that, future of the work, companies are already looking ahead last few years, right? So what is collaboration? As a simple infographics you see here, collaboration is not just about individual, it does require a lot of collaboration. So this pyramid you see here, the 4C, if I can say, and the top is the collaboration, is communication, right? The communication is fundamentally the key, and it should be easy to share. We'll talk about the technology and tool because those are just the enablers, right? It's more about the process first. Tool and technologies will fall in place once you understand what you want to achieve in the organization. And as I mentioned, the organization is not just about individuals who go to the physical offices, but today the world, and mostly my work, which I'll talk about if I have time, does require so much discussion from technologies companies from Europe, from US, from India, from all over the world, having a discussion, deep discussion sometime on technology, right? So clear communication is critical. Free and easy communication is critical. The second part is commitment, that how the partners come together and without any concern who gets the credit, right? Like I said, it's about a team effort. Just to give an idea on the topic of IoT, right? This is where one of our work is focused on industry, Internet of Things. And some of you might know IoT is a complex topic. It does require a lot of technology integration, a lot of partner support. There's no company who can do everything, right? So when we talk about IoT projects, be it smart buildings or smart factories or Industry 4.0, what we do as a company, we orchestrate. We are the project managers who drive everybody, but we don't take the entire credit, right? So it is about the team making them successful to be able to do that, and the coordination, right? So project planning, making sure what everybody have to do, and then the collaboration. Nobody can do it alone, as I mentioned. And so these are the 4 key areas which you have to keep in mind as a organization when you're planning the future of the work, right? So now coming quickly on this office spaces, as I have been speaking to quite a number of senior professionals into whether the developers communities or the buildings or the facilities, right? So we are not going to offices, as we know, right? So a lot of co-working space, where there is a WeWork, which we saw struggling, or a lot of co-working space, including Singapore, are running dry, right? So what we should do as a company, while they are putting up a free, nice coffee machines, the background music, but how do you drive the collaboration? Or maybe the very simple co-working offices. right? So I was discussing this particular idea with a couple of our advisors on the network, that like in Singapore, those who are familiar with Singapore, and I'm sure similar concept might be there in the other countries as well. We have almost like every uh, uh, block, the housing block, we have the child care centers, very small child care centers, where maybe 30-40 kids can go in the morning, and then the parents can go to work. So we were brainstorming the idea that instead of having those fancy such offices, and which are primarily sitting into the central business district. So for me to go to my office or go to co-working space, I still have to spend almost same time and effort, right? So how about coming up to hyper local offices, maybe just below my housing, right? So I can just walk down. It is provided with simple tools and technologies. It helped me to save my time and effort to drive or ride or take a taxi every day. At the same time, I can do my job, because a lot of companies, a lot of individuals who have been talking about work from home, I'm not sure how good has been experience of you guys, but for me with the family and the kids is not that efficient, right? While I'm still sitting at home, but when we want to do really dedicated work, it is not that easy for professionals to work at home. Hence, we are talking about hyper local offices, maybe like could be sponsored by by even the governments, because it helps them indirectly to save the time of the working professionals, which will contribute back to the GDP of the nation. At the same time, even the companies might chip in that okay, let us pay this bill of this co-working spaces or hyperlocal offices to CK, so that he can be more efficient and spend more time with the family, because otherwise he might be spending maybe 1 hour to travel just on the road. And I know I've been to Jakarta many times. We know how the traffic it is, right? To go to office, we have to think twice sometimes. So we can't. Sometime when I was in Jakarta, I was having a meeting in the car, right? So, and same many other developing countries in this region, be it Manila or be it in Dhaka, I've been to many of such places. So this kind of concept of future of the work or collaborative environment is not just about, like I said, having a Zoom or any other tool, but rather first setting up the process correct, and then finding up the right tool. So these are just simple example of those what some of those real estate companies are thinking about, right? So offices, they have certain core needs, like the buildings, whether HVAC systems, whether safety, access control, and all those kind of things, energy optimization. But the prime goal of these spaces, be it co-working spaces or your traditional offices, is all about engaging the employees within the facilities, and also enabling them to be able to collaborate with people remotely, right? So that's where the lot of workspace apps, as Nivas also pointed out, some of the tools, and I have similar slide uh, in my presentation as well. So at the fundamental level, if we call it a hierarchy of the real estate needs, they have to relook at it, how they could help organization to redesign their spaces and then enable the collaboration, right? So sorry. So look, going forward, millennials, I'm still young, if I can say, though I have been working in industry for almost 17 years. But the future of the collaboration, not just having a discussion over a coffee, but rather be sitting remotely and having an AR/VR discussion with your customers or the partners, right? So how the future of the worker, while we talk about future of the work, but at the same time, as I mentioned, work done by workers, right? So what they should be doing, one is a traditional approach, right? We go to university, we learn something, we find a job, we perform, we may switch a job and then retire. Pretty traditional way of doing it. But going forward, again, referring back to Nivas, what he pointed out was also that we have to be always learning. So as many of the universities that I'm associated, we call it continuous learning, lifelong learning.
You have
What I studied.
You have about 3 more minutes.
Sure. Thanks for. So what we talk about right now, including myself, I'm hungry about the knowledge. So I continuously learn. Every few years, or every day, I learn something by people like you, by people in my job, people in my customer spaces. and then hopefully we'll retire in some form. What the retire will also look like, we do not know. But the fundamentally is that you have to look ahead, that whatever you study right now in 4 years may not be applicable 20 years down the line. Right? So focus on the continuous learning. I'll skip few things here, but again, just broader picture of it is that how do we continuously perform with the tools, and how do we search for the learning applications and everything. So there's so much information available, and thankfully you have those opportunities now, like versus 20 years back. Again, this is the slide I was referring to, similar to what Nivas was talking about. So there are a lot of tools, right? So there's a dearth of tools. There is no shortage of it. But before you choose and pick up a tool, you have to understand first what is your organization process. Is it a manufacturing plant? It is a software development office. It's a healthcare company. It is a financial company, right? So then you can understand what tool you need to use for, right? And just to give you some of our own example here, right? So as a company, we also spend quite a time in thought leadership sessions. We host regular discussion with the professionals out there. But since we couldn't do it last few months, so we started using this tool. Is a startup which I personally also advise, called Airmeet, based out of India. A very wonderful tool. So if you see here, just so the screenshot I picked up, so like we use Zoom, but this platform enables even more engagement with the professionals. You see here, people can raise hand, can come to the, they can have these roundtable discussions, a lot of things. So we are now using these kind of tools to be able to do the same thing, and even better now, because now we can reach to the global audience versus what we used to do in physical in Singapore. Right? Similarly, some more example of the collaboration. Take example of this particular company and then the solution we work with on those workforce management. So when people have to maintain social distancing and those kind of safety measures when they're doing on the job, but these kind of tools could help them perform the job, track them, and all those insight which we can generate to continue the business. Similarly, like command centers kind of use cases where people might be doing the remote control of these large facilities remotely in a command centers kind of things, right? So just a quick quick 1 minute introduction. So that's my summary of the whole future of the work. That before you talk about the solution, just understand what are the purpose of the future of your organization look like, the processes you may have to transform, and that's what we do as a company. We're an IoT digital transformation company based out of Singapore. So we integrate all those solutions together, working with the very advanced companies in IoT, AI, robotics. I was reading a chat, people are asking about IoT, 5G, 4G, blockchain. So happy to have a conversation one-on-one if anybody is interested in those topics. We work with the pretty large size of the ecosystem, both from the customer as well as the startups, large companies, right? So the idea is we look at these technologies and tools, and the future of work comes there, because when we're planning industry 4.0 journey for our customers, we don't just throw them the technologies on their faces, right? So we can all talk about flying drones or AI, blockchain, but the problem is people on the ground, people who are running the machines, they want to understand how their work will look like. That's why I spend quite a time on even understanding their gaps, their capabilities, their current readiness level, which we call it current state to future state roadmap design. And then we'll talk about, if you see the third stage, which is the execution of technologies, where we evaluate right technology, right partners, will come together and implement this, right? So we call it a
Excuse me, CK, you have 1 more minute. Just one
sure,
more minute.
Thanks for almost done. Yeah. So just quickly add here this, since there are engineers, so I bring it with mathematically sound slide. So the idea is when you talk about future of the work or the transformation within the organization, they're typically the strategy guys, the C-level guys, if you can imagine, and there are functional guys. So if we keep talking about future of the work collaboration just among the boardroom, nothing will happen. What we have to do, as you see the bubble in size increases as with the time, we need to shift the power. We need to give the power to the people on the ground to enable them. What the C-level, the strategy guys need to do is manage this gap, manage the gap of what they have thought and how the functional people and on the ground are implementing it. So managing this delta is critical when we talk about the future of work or digital transformation and all those topics, right? And again, nothing can be done overnight. We have to understand the complexity of the solution. Some could be as simple as off the shelf kind of approach we want to think about, and there could be a lot of innovation, complex processes, kind of future of implementation we may have to do, right? This slide is important while it sounds simple, but the idea is when you talk about all those various technologies, you can't do everything, nor we can do everything, right? So all things united can do everything, but what we are good at is understanding use case, understanding the requirements, and then identifying right technologies, and then bringing the right partners. Could be from the corporate, could be from startups, could be from research, and then we need to orchestrate. And that's what we also educate to our customers and the partners, that don't try to do everything by yourself, because that's not going to work, right? That's not how it works. You have to drive it as an open adaptive ecosystem approach when we bring and orchestrate this whole initiative of the collaboration, right? So that's my last slide. We work with the company, so anybody who's keen onto the technology part, we can go super deep dive on those topics. Happy to do that. And yes, this is my LinkedIn, CK Vishwakarma. Do reach out to me. You can follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or this is my general contact, connect at athinksc.com. Happy to have a conversation. Thanks everyone. And I hope it has given you some broad idea of that. Don't look at future of the work and collaboration just as a Zoom or team or such tools. Understand the process, understand the operational part of it. Then tools and technologies will fall in place. But at the same time, make sure you bring the organization together. The way the person in the boardroom may work may not be the person who is working on the ground floor on the machines, right? So it's an organizational wise approach for the future of the world, right? Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, CK. Thank you so much. This is the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted our idea of work environment. CK has kindly give us a glimpse of how future of our work environment is going to like. It's not work in the office. It's not work from home. It's about working anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as productivity is not affected. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your participation till now. We are now in the nearing of the end of our presentations. We have about 10 to 15 minutes question and answers. I will take the question first. I would like to give this first question to our keynote speaker today, Dr. Ismael, the Director General. The question is, how can we maximize the use of distance learning with different condition of mobile signals and people capability to use learning management system? Dr. Ismael, kindly please provide your answers and feedback. Thank you. Dr. Ismael?
I don't think he is still in the forum.
We're moving to the next questions. I would like to give this chance to the question is to Dr. Yanwar. This is one of the questions, Dr. Yanwar from Bapak Wahyudi Hasbi. If this pandemic continues, let's say till next year, what the government should do, especially balancing between economic growth and taking care of people's health? It's a very difficult question, I guess, because we don't know yet what's going on in terms of so, because very difficult questions, kindly please, by Dr. Yanwar.
Thank you for helping me answer that question. This is very difficult. Sorry. Yeah, I think better we prepare ourselves rather than having a prejudge on how soon it ends. I mean, the pandemic ends. Better we prepare ourselves. And I think at the moment, it is not a proper approach to look at economy vis-a-vis safety or health. Because you cannot have healthy or you cannot have non-infected society without economic activities, and the other way around. You have economic activities, but you risk your people being infected. So I think what I already proposed as well to my government is having two sides of approach. One, you for sure have to ensure that the people remain disciplined in physical distancing, in keeping cleanliness. All we know about this. But second, that we often forget is also to prepare the state apparatus, the state institutions, to really be there for the people. It means contact tracing. It means more tests. It means increasing health capacity. It means helping people to have high risk perception about this pandemic. This is the way I think we can move forward. And all with we already discussed here, opening up our mind and opening up our heart, that there is a new way of working. I think that's it, Pak.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Yanwa. Okay, thank you so much. Very, very, let's answer the question anyway. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to give the chance to Professor Cookjins. The question is, education marketplace and other has been transferred to the digitals and online. IEEE has a lot of role, especially in the area of digitalization. The question is there any such transformation in engineering in the perspective of IEEE? Would you mind to unmute it, Professor Cookjin? Unmute.
Oh, yes, yeah, I was on mute. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Education and marketplace and other have been transformed to the digital and online. IEEE has a vital role in this area. Now, the question is there such transformation in engineering on the perspective of IEEE?
IEEE has 46 societies, including from basically covering all the aspects of IT and electrical engineering and computers. So the IEEE, each society is developing technology in its own, in its specific areas, and then work with the educational activity board to create the learning materials. And another approach in IEEE is called the Future Directions Committee. It's a committee, but it's a pretty big committee, and they set up future technologies, the possible ones, like big data or the grid technology. Those kind of technologies basically graduated already, and then the blockchain or the senses or even the earth, how to explore the earth. And so there are several initiatives in IEEE from the Future Directions Committee, and in each area, over 1,000, from 1,000 to a few thousand people, have cooperate or share their information in that area, and those materials are transformed to this the education, so that that there are over 400 courses available now in that areas, basically covering all the areas, and all, since again IEEE has members in 160 countries all over the world, so it has been actually it was a kind of frontier on the digital transformation in some sense, because all those articles or information could be transferred only by the internet or other, not by the direct congregation. So that IEEE is pursuing more and more in that area.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. Cookjin. This is very good quick answers. I would like to move to the NIFAS. NIFAS, this is the question asking about your presentation mentioned about remote working. Now, there are two questions about remote working. The first is, what kind of the preparation for young professionals to have able they are working as remote working. That's the first. The second one, in remote working, there is no boundary between, for instance, like country or even some of the area, right? So what kind of the bottleneck or challenging in remote working, especially after the post COVID-19 pandemic? Please. Please unmute it, Anibas, unmute it. Unmute it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think from a skills perspective, or how do you prepare for remote working, I think it's just the couple of things that I mentioned, right? Being all, available, and also setting a boundary between when is work and when is this thing. So in fact, even if you use like any chat, like a Slack or something like that, we within our company we define saying, hey, I am available from this particular time to this particular time. So that sort of a communication is going to be super important to kind of set the boundaries between what is work and when is your home time or when is your personal time. So I think there's not a lot of prep required, just that if you can just the one challenge that I definitely see, right, is the language communication like barrier, right? Like one thing that we can probably improve in Asia is being more willingness to kind of learn new languages from, like, let's say in a European language, or maybe even from an English or a Spain or a Spanish perspective. So if we're able to do that, I think our opportunities will just increase. So I think that is going to be an important thing. The reason why I feel we have a higher opportunity here is because maybe compared to countries in the West, are the say things like the pay grades and things are slightly lower. So I just feel it'll improve as and when we have more remote work opportunities, and we would be able to kind of create a better economy is what I feel.
Okay, thank you so much, Nipas. Very good answers. This is the last question. I would like to raise this one to CK. CK, your presentation mentioned about collaborative work environment. It's very, very inspiring and very futuristic anyway, because not many regions already implement this one. There are two issues actually in collaborative work environment that I noted in here. The first is about privacy and about the intellectual property. So how do you provide response about these two issues, privacy and intellectual property? Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe I'll split this question into two topics, and those two topics itself are pretty big in its own. One is security, cyber security, which is primarily a technical topic. Then comes the privacy, which is the more of a policy topic, right? So privacy for you, for Nivas, for Dr. Kukchin may be different, right? So I'm okay to share my information, but maybe Nivas is not so comfortable. So privacy is dealt primarily from the policy point of view, but cybersecurity, which is critical, in fact, as we also see, not just in Singapore, but around the region, in my own discussion with the customers, is like the topmost priority, especially into this OT, IoT, and critical infrastructure when everything is getting connected. So the quick answer for cybersecurity is, while people get worried about data is not being secured, how the systems are getting secured, all those systems and machines are getting connected. So there are tools and technologies out there. Like as mentioned, this we do that. We help our customers to secure their critical infrastructure from all the way from device perspective all the way to the cloud. So that we can do right now itself. But cybersecurity is also same time you need to understand is a continuous journey. It's not something you buy a Zoom license and you can just use it forever and with the regular updates. Cybersecurity is something as secure as maybe just few minutes before, right? So what may happen within these few minutes could change. So cybersecurity also need to understood by the organization that is not something will be one-time fix. It's a continuous journey, and everybody need to understand. So there's a lot of knowledge gap among professionals, and especially when people are working from home, connecting with their home routers and all those kind of things, whether they have the right security things in place, right? So there's still a lot of knowledge gap, and that's what we do as a company also to educate our customers and partners. But technology is there. Technology is there to help securing, whether is your intellectual property, design data about your company, or is about your personal data. Coming quickly onto the privacy side of it. So that's pretty much on the regulation side, right? So we talk about citizen data, like we talk about trace and track kind of use cases, or companies sharing their personal data. So while European countries, if I can say, they are much more ahead in terms of the framework and the policies. So some of them are catching it up. Even in Singapore, we have PDPC regulations. But at the end of the day, we need to figure it out a way what a company or individual is comfortable with. Right? So this is kind of continuous journey. So again, this topic will be in-depth discussion required. So if anybody, I'm not sure who raised this question, but if he or she want to discuss more in detail, can always reach out to me and we can discuss maybe how it is solved it technically and from policy point of view.
Okay, thank you so much, CK. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are nearing to the end of the webinars. I would like to invite Bapak Arnold Jiwatampu as IEEE Indonesia Section Advisory Committee and CEO of Titian Telkom to give a closing remark. Pak Ji, the time is yours.
My voice double or is it okay?
It seems like there is no presentation. Do you want to present it in a PowerPoint or just summary, Pak G?
No, I will just I will just mention it.
Okay, go ahead. It seems like the sound's not quite louder. Would you mind to increase it?
Is this okay?
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you.
Is it not double voice also?
No, it will be much better if you can increase the volume. This will be much better.
Oh, increase
the volume. There is
volume.
Yeah, that's better.
How about this?
That's much better.
Pak.
That's much better.
Okay. The overall purpose of this webinar, the second one, of the three series of the IEEE Leadership Summit, which is titled Engineering in COVID-19 under the IEEE Region 10, organized by the Industrial Relation and of Industrial Relation, a Young Professional Government Relation of IEEE, in collaboration of IEEE Singapore Office. The purpose is to assess member countries concerned and thereby the world community in coping with the present pandemic COVID-19 challenge, which one side is endangering the global community, and at the other side has raised new innovative activities for a better world. As members of the IEEE, we are keen in pursuing IEEE ultimate goals for assisting mankind by utilizing means, person, or professional capabilities. You have heard the first webinar was the most important technology is teamwork, and it seems to be emphasized again by some speakers. And the second one is preparing and shaping the new society. Well, summarizing, the IEEE members in Region 10 would like to contribute with other communities in the region and globally in solving or mitigating the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic through technology and innovative measures or means. We we attempt to grow experts from various disciplines in finding and rethinking for a new breakthrough of mastering and managing the industry and keeping the natural health environment more cautiously, more consistently, and more caringly. We have to keep the unexpected and previously impossible environmental accomplishment, although it might entirely change our relationship, attitude, and habits toward mankind and among nations, which earlier was disastrous because egoistic intentions, philosophy, and efforts. By assisting each other.
Paji, excuse me, Paji, sorry. Would you mind to turn on your video? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
That's much better.
Okay. Is that good enough?
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
We can see your face. Thank you.
now we can see you. Okay.
This is emphasized by our excellent and experienced speakers summarized below. Professor Akinori, Director Region 10, he congratulates Indonesia for its active membership rise 4 to 5 times since 2005, and Indonesia as the fourth number of population and membership. Sorry, we need to create a new society and hope fruitful discussion and carry IEEE advancing for the community. The coordinator, who Agnes, has given committee members participation in webinar 1 and 2. The chair is Mr. Leo Chiang and Pak Por. Now, the keynote speech by Dr. Ismael, preparing and shaping the new society through technology. He stresses that he explains that COVID-19 will create new normal society with better ICT technology. In teleworking, teleshopping, telemedicine, distance learning, video meetings, acceleration towards industry 4. COVID-19 requires all sectors able to leapfrog in digitalization, maintain business, and improve talents, sending documents digitally, using artificial intelligence, accelerating licensing demand for forecasting big data, or government decision making. Technology and human capital will be key points to recover Indonesia economy and other countries, and Indonesia should benefit from the technology as a vertical process for invention and creating new things. Hence, enabling innovation ecosystem has to be created. Certainly, also benefiting the horizontal process through globalization, scaling, and copying existing ones. We all understand the criticality of triple helix, the synergy of government for establishing the suprastructure, the university as strategic partner, and industry for providing the digital talent and industry research center. The stresses on research. Hope IEEE could elevate the skills of its members and society. Well, we now have Professor Bugi. the IEEE Vice President for MGA. He indicates that the MGA highlights issues below. On one side, COVID-19 has caused great disorders, such as restriction of travel, gathering and meetings, closing offices, labor layoffs. At the other side, has brought numerous gains, such as efficiency of working from home, long-distance education and medical treatments, service deliveries, steep increase in connectivity and internet traffic, transparent and timely information as well as green recovery in a new world. IEEE having as a worldwide professional organization for the society digital information has 420,000 members in 160 countries with 10 regions, providing many resources and tools for its membership with virtual engagement service. For instance, IEEE TV, hundreds of virtual conferences annually, online publication, IEEE learning network and courses, and no cost public access to important IEEE standards acknowledged by ITU and other IEEE International Region organizations. The organization unit under Prof. Kujin handles inter alia members experience and operations, students, young professionals, learning and engineering, life members, and like and also training for leadership excellence and many others. Our colleague, low profile colleague,
Pak Anwar, you are left with 1 minute. Thank you.
Pardon?
You are left with 1 minute. Thank you.
1 minute, you say?
Yes, 1 minute. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Professor Yanuar emphasized innovation for development is for raising the capability of people, improving livelihood, as well as exercising, shaping the future society or building state capacity involving several points. Mr. Nipas emphasized big companies like banks or Facebook changing to remote hiring at least until 2021. The stresses sharpen the skill. In China example, skills as bigger is very important. Improving skills because paychecks through hard work. We understand trends positively impacted and the ones who are negatively impacted. And that the remote work practice good meeting etiquette. Mr. C.K. Viswakarma stresses and that very important the 75% of employees and employees feels collaborative work environment very resistant. And you need to know the prerequisite for collaboration. What is collaboration? As sharing of information, commitment, and good faith flex, and sequence plan of action, and certainty, spirit of healing, and mutual respect, including conventional rules as convenient rules. And going further, we should always say, well, I think perhaps we have exceeded a few seconds. This is all I would like to thank.
Thank you.
You will get the written form later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pak Anud, for your fantastic closing remark. Ladies and gentlemen, just now there was one question addressed to Pak Ismael. Unfortunately, Pak Ismael has another meeting he has to go to. He's not able to sit through this webinar with us. Nonetheless, he has sent us his answer to the question regarding the government's position. So do allow me to read out his answer. The most important is the senior management commitment to consistently transform the business. Without top-down approach, the result will not be significant or even will be harder in the future because it tends to create silos solution. Next thing is the senior management has to invest in technology. Without investment and funding, the technology is only knowledge without implementation. Next is by knowing all the pain points of the company. Starting with this, we can understand what technology will be used and transform our business. Last but not least, we have to build the capacity of the people with digital capability. It also includes the change of paradigm from the people. If we cannot change the culture, the technology will only be nice to have things without significant impact to the business. Ladies and gentlemen, the above is the answer from Pak Ismael. Okay, before we close this, I will do a summary of this webinar. Within a matter of months, COVID-19 virus has delivered a severe blow to the world economy and has killed approximately 500,000 people. The world that we are familiar with has more or less, unfortunately, collapsed. But as we've heard today from all our prestigious speakers, all our speakers have told us there's no reason to give up hope. This crisis can also drive change and help cement a transformation. If we look carefully, there are many opportunities available for all of us, but we must be on our toes. Survival favors not the strong, but the agile. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And before we do this closing, we have a small little request. We have a feedback form. Kindly let us know how you feel about this webinar, and your feedback is very important to the organizing committee members. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Leo. Bye-bye.
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 Thank you. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih Pak Arnold, Pak Agnes, semuanya.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Terima kasih.
Bye.
Prof. Jin, CK.
Terima kasih semuanya. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you for
Terima kasih.
everyone.
Nifas, thank you.
Do you hear me, Leo?
Matur nuwun, Pak
Yes,
Yanuar.
yes, we are here, Agnes.
Can we take a picture with the speakers?
Okay.
Could you please turn on all of the
Pak Anud, yeah,
I was about to go.
yeah, Pak Yanwar, CK.
I'm still here.
Yep, I
Yeah.
was almost going.
Thank you, Pak Yanuar.
Thank you, Pak Yanwar.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. No, wait.
Take a screenshot.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a screenshot. Yeah,
Oh, none of us did that before. No, okay.
yeah.
Is CK still here? No.
CK.
Ah, CK still here. Good.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
What
CK.
about
but
Nifas?
Prof. Kojin is not here, unfortunately.
Prof. Kukjin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ewell, are you there? Ewell?
Yes,
Ewell?
I am.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you everyone. It was very interesting seminar.
I will screenshot. 1, 2, cheers. Once more. 1, 2, cheers. Thank you.
So, Pak Yanuar, see you after COVID in Yogyakarta.
Thank you.
Hopefully to see you, Leo, in
Everyone.
Singapore.
Pak
See you,
Yanwar.
Singapore. Pak Yanwar.
Singapore
Everyone.
with durian nonetheless.
Terima kasih semuanya. Selamat sore.
Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye
Evel.
bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mas Robi, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Pak Ci, thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Nes, terima kasih Pak Ford, Ano,
Ya.
semuanya.
Mas Indra,
Lega nih,
sukses.
bisa juga. Oke Pak, sampai ketemu lagi.
Pamit ya.
Sampai ketemu. Makasih.
Yuk, sampai ketemu lagi.